and welcome back to the Herbal Entrepreneur channel. I'm Yolanda Joy, and today we're going to be having a conversation with Annika McCann, who wears all the hats at Primal Botanical CBD. Annika, I'm so glad that you can join us today.
Hi, Yolanda. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored that you chose me to have a conversation with. I'm excited.
Oh, well, I am truly excited to dive into what you're doing with your business because I can tell that you're so active in the way that you promote what you're doing, and you have a really unique vision, and you just are really passionate about the products that you offer and just getting your message out there to the people. And I think that's such an important thing to have as a business owner, especially one who does have to wear all of the hats, because it's so much to be doing. You have to love what you're doing. So before, I think it would be great if you could tell us a little bit about what your mission is and why it is you're so passionate about it, and what you do.
Sure. Well, my mission, I guess, is just to help people feel better. I want to help people feel better without having to resort so much on medications. And if people can use herbs or CBD or whatever other herbs and methods to feel better without having to take so many drugs, I think that's a win for everybody. So that's really my mission.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really important mission, just for people to be able to take more control over their own bodies and their health. And that's kind of what you're about as well. And so you have primarily CBD products. Do you also have other products? What are your main product lines that you have?
Everything I sell in my current business is CBD. So I have CBD oils, rubs, body butters, bath salts, CBD toffees, and I'm just coming out with a new line of CBD massage oils, which I'm about to launch hopefully this week.
Oh, wow, that's exciting.
Yes,
it's a lot of work.
It's so much work to launch a new product line. Oh my God. Yes, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, people don't realize how much work goes into that, all of the runway before you actually launch.
Oh yeah. It seems so easy. Yeah, just mix a bunch of things together, put it in a bottle, slap a label on it, you're done. But yeah, there's so much back work behind it. Yeah.
I'd love to get a little bit more into the meat of your brand, and especially the messaging and how you present that to people, and what sets you apart from the rest.
Well, I'm a nurse, and I've been an herbalist for 30 years. So I've had a long history of making medicine from plants. And I'm kind of an old school herbalist. I make everything myself, which is quite unusual in the CBD industry. Usually when you see a CBD product on a store shelf or online, usually it's made with a CBD concentrate or a distillate or something. So someone just buys a concentrate or distillate from a lab and then mixes it in with a carrier oil and calls it handmade. And I don't do that. I make all my CBD oils from scratch, from hemp flower grown just up the road from me. And I make it, old school style, low and slow heat. And then I mix it into all my products. I do use some CBD concentrate to boost the potency of some of my products, but they're all based on my handmade oil, with the exception of the toffees and the bath salts. Those are made with concentrate and distillate, but everything else is made with my handmade oil. So that's really quite different than most other products you find out there. There are certainly some other herbalists out there making wonderful CBD products, but the majority of them are not made by herbalists or people with that much experience working with plants.
Yeah, and I think that is a really great point of differentiation for a smaller business, especially because you're doing everything on your own, because you can't compete with the bigger businesses, and being able to do that on the small batch with the locally grown herbs and really kind of accentuating that smallness is kind of the best thing you can do. And it's great to hear that you are doing that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's really rewarding, and people respond really well to my products and my messaging. And being a nurse helps too. I sell at a couple of farmers markets, and I have a sign that says questions about CBD, ask a nurse, with an arrow pointing at me. And so they're like, oh, I've always wondered about CBD. You're a nurse, can you tell me this? And it makes the difference. Yeah.
That's a great point, because you do have that inbuilt credibility because you are a nurse, and so people go to you because they trust you and they trust your opinions, and that's a great starting point for that conversation. But then it's great to hear that you're also making it easier. You're reducing that barrier to entry with that like funny little sign, like pointing at yourself, like it's something that people kind of laugh at, but then actually ask the question. So it's like that joke entry in, and then people are asking questions. And do you find that people are like really curious, and like what sort of questions are they asking you?
Oh, I get so many questions, and honestly, I could just talk about CBD all day long and never get bored. So it's good. But a lot of people are like, what is CBD? I keep hearing all this buzz about it. I don't know anything about it. So there's really general questions like that, and then there's like super specific questions. People come up to me and say, I've just been diagnosed with, X fibromyalgia or whatever. Can CBD help with that? And some of those answers are easy. Some of those questions are easy to answer, and others I might have to look something up or say, geez, I don't really know, but if you give me your email address, I'll find out and email you back with an answer.
That's such a great point as well, because I remember studying pharmacy, just it's so important to recognize your limits and when you know something and when you don't. And so like if you don't know the answer, rather than just like bluffing your way through it and just like saying something, it's so much better to get their email, do the research properly, take the time you need, and then give like an informed response. And you can see that you're doing that right now, which is just like so important out of respect for the public knowledge as well. Just continuing that conversation in a great way is wonderful.
Sometimes the questions aren't really answerable because we just don't have the data out there. I mean, CBD and hemp products, like other herbs, there's, it's harder to study them. Hemp is even harder to study than other herbs, but a lot of herbs don't have a lot of solid, robust data behind them because there's no money in studying them because they can't be patented. And CBD products have that same problem. Plus, it's much harder to study a cannabis plant because of the laws in this country, most of the world. Yeah, it really puts a damper on research. So sometimes people ask me like, oh, is CBD safe in breastfeeding or whatever? And I'm like, well, we just don't really know. The data has not been done. So I can't tell you definitively whether it's safe or not.
And that's actually an issue with like anything kind of new or things that haven't been researched before. And then they that double kind of barrier when you can't patent something. People with money are no longer interested in doing the studies, and so it is harder to get to the data that we need for that. But then that sometimes is just a matter of communicating that to people up front, like saying, like you said, we don't have the data, and that's how it is.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do specifically like about your brand as well is the way you show who you are and your messaging on social media. And like, I'm not sure, I haven't personally seen how you do it in person either, so I'm not sure how that works. But could you give me some examples of the way you present who you are and your core message through your marketing, whether that be in person or through like Instagram Reels or anything that has worked well for you?
Well, I try to be approachable and present information in a way that people can understand. And I try to have a sense of humor and be upbeat about stuff. Yeah, I don't really have a system. I just kind of play it as I go. I know with social media stuff, you're always supposed to have like this big plan, and I just don't really do that. I just kind of do stuff when I feel inspired. And it's hard keeping up with all the social media and content creation stuff. It's really a challenge. Yeah, and if you run your own small herbal business, it's not enough to be a fantastic herbalist. You've got to be a photographer and a videographer and a writer and a marketer and there's so many other hats you have to wear, and it can be really a challenge keeping up with everything.
And so would you say that is probably the biggest challenge in your growing your business to date, is the various channels?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, that and the whole marketing aspect of it. The CBD field is crowded. Everybody is making CBD products and putting CBD in all kinds of products, and it's a crowded, busy marketplace, and trying to get attention as a really, really small brand with a advertising budget of basically zero is challenging. Yeah, just to get your voice heard when there's so many other voices out there.
Yeah, I think the marketing is specifically difficult for a new business getting themselves out there, because it takes time to get up momentum and those sort of things.
Especially because of the limits of what we're allowed to say. We can't make health claims, which is a huge disadvantage. You can't say, oh, CBD is great for arthritis or whatever, because that's absolutely not allowed, and you can get in big trouble for doing that. So you have to kind of come up with creative language. But I've had a couple of complaints from customers about that. Like, on your website, you don't say what CBD is good for. And it's like, well, I can't. It can get me into big trouble if I do that. So,
yeah. And because consumers aren't necessarily aware of that, like as a consumer, they don't understand the rules. And so there's that disconnect of like, why can't you say your products are good for that? Or like how do you respond to that? Or if people ask for information about your products, how do you communicate that in a way that you can?
So if people are talking to me in person or by email or something, I will be much more open with what I'm saying and tell them more specifics. But if I'm doing anything that's publicly viewable online, I really try to hold back as much as I can. I'll say, joint pain, but I won't say arthritis, things like that. And when people question me, it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to make health claims according to the FDA. It's not allowed.
Yeah, it is. And this is specifically unique to herbalism and natural health realms. It is a very tricky field to play in, because there are like, you just have to be so careful about the language you use and the message that you are giving to people that are listening to you as well.
Some CBD companies are getting huge fines in the last couple of years. The FDA, or it might be the FTC, is really cracking down on. They're really targeting CBD companies versus other herbal companies or supplement companies, for making health claims usually. But they're usually pretty egregious health claims, like CBD will cure COVID, it'll cure cancer, But I'm certainly not making any kinds of claims like that. But I'm trying to be really careful with all claims. And you can't even have claims said by other people. Like if someone writes a review and says, oh, this worked great for my arthritis, I have to take it down off my website. I have to suppress that, because that's making a health claim if I allow that to be on my website, even though it's something somebody else said.
Yeah, that's so interesting, isn't it? Like it's not even you, but it's still coming from your website. And so it's still part of that whole message that people are getting from your website. That's and so you have to monitor all of that. It does make it so much trickier. Like you have to really monitor everything. And I can imagine that people would mention that in the reviews all the time as well, because that's the result that they get. And so they would be saying that. And so it's just, kind of frustrating that you have to take it down if it's like a personal experience.
I know someone writes this amazing glowing review and I'm like, it's too bad. Yeah.
I also wanted to dig a little bit further into, like you're saying that one of your like biggest challenges is the marketing and going all over working out what works. How have you worked about like overcoming this, or what parts have been most successful for you when it comes to marketing to date?
So I don't know that I've been very successful in marketing. Like I don't have a huge following on Instagram or Facebook. I think the best thing is to actually be talking to people face to face. I do a lot of farmers markets, and I do a lot of talking to people at those, and just making that personal connection. People talk to me and they're like, oh, you're so knowledgeable and thank you so much, and you explain things so clearly. And so I guess the struggle is translating that from in person to the small screen, and being able to convey that in the same way. And it's just so time consuming keeping up with all the social media. It's really it takes so much time, and I'm not very good at that. Like I've kind of neglected Instagram this past whole month, just because it takes a lot of time and energy and mental energy. Yeah.
Absolutely. But did you know that like word of mouth marketing is a form of art marketing? So you've like aced word of mouth art marketing. and then that's
I do have a lot of referrals. Like people said, oh, my sister bought this from you. So I do get a lot that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's also worth considering that social media is a relatively new concept, in that like it is important for people to be using it as much as possible, not as much as possible, but where they can in this day and age that we're at. But historically, people have ran like fully functional businesses without social media, and primarily off of the people in their communities, and like with real in-person connections. And so it is like possible to have a thriving business based off of like word of mouth, in-person connections, referrals, and just like really doing your work well. And I like, this is a recurring theme in a lot of sessions that we've done at Herbal Entrepreneur, is that like you just need to start with a really good product and get it out there to a few people, and then like there's this wheel of word of mouth that like one person is happy and it kind of spreads. Because like if you have a good product, people are so happy to talk about it and continue that, and like that's a way that it can grow just like that. And it sounds like you're doing that really well.
I try to.
Yeah. Like I also know that an extension of that kind of in-person talking is like classes and teaching about what you do. And I believe that recently you have actually taught a beginner's class about CBD. Is that correct? Would you like to tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. It was my first in-person CBD class, I think. Yeah. I did a little like 15-minute Facebook Live once, but this was my first like long class. And it was at a local herb store that carries my products, and or local-ish, about an hour and a half away from me in New Hampshire. And yeah, it went really, really well. It was, like I said before, I could just talk forever about CBD and never get bored of, and I just really love sharing my passion with other people and hearing what they have to say and what their experiences have been. So yeah, I find that really fun, and I hope to do more of them in the future.
Yeah. Well, I think it's wonderful that you got out there and did your first class. And I know for a fact that there are a lot of people who'll be watching this video that are interested in doing a similar thing. Like you say, you love talking about CBD. There are so many herbalists that would just love to be talking about herbs all day and would love the opportunity to teach and talk about herbs with others in an in-person basis, especially. So yeah, I would like to know about your process. Like, how did you get in contact with the local herb store? How did that partnership come about so that you were in the position to teach that class?
Well, I think it's a new herb store. So they opened, and I think I just found, they posted on Instagram or something, and I saw their post, and I wrote them, and I said, oh, I'm a local herbalist. I make CBD products. Would you be interested in selling them? And she said, yes. So she ended up, she carries a lot of my products. And then the store offers educational classes of various kinds. And so she asked me if I wanted to teach. And I said, absolutely.
So it's kind of like jumping on the new shop and their momentum of getting everything started. And then did you reach out like in person or via email? How did that like initial contact happen?
When I first reached out to the store?
Yeah.
I either messaged them on Instagram or I emailed. I can't quite remember.
Yeah. So it was your initiative anyway, that you reached out to them with the idea of stocking your products, and then it moved on to the idea of teaching. Now, I do think it's always so important to like have the confidence to actually reach out and put things out there, because so many people have ideas but don't actually like hit send on the email. Like so many partnerships and great things where people come together don't happen because people are like just a little bit too scared to just put it out there and see what happens. And it's great.
Yeah, I certainly have had a lot of rejections just trying to reach out. Like I sell my products at a local bike shop, and they sell really well there because bikers are always getting injured, or bikers really love my products. So I was like, okay, that's doing really well. So I sent out an email to like a whole lot of bike shops in Vermont and New Hampshire, and I don't think any of them replied. So it can be tough trying to get yourself out there. But yeah, business owners are just busy. They get an email, and even if it seems like, oh, that might be cool, then it's like buried in your inbox and you forget about it. So you have to be tenacious to keep up with that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is a nice idea that you've got like one particular market that goes well, or appreciates your products, and so then reaching out to other shops in that same sector, it makes a lot of sense. Like, it would almost be worth dropping by in person and seeing if it's because of the email that is just like kind of dropping through, or whether if you dropped in and like just presented the offer, if you might get more interest.
Oh, I'm sure that would be the best practices for sure. Yeah, send an email and, say, oh, can I come in at a certain time and show you my stuff? And yeah, do all that follow through, which I didn't do because of lack of time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I also wanted to ask a little bit more about the actual class that you taught as well. How did that go? Like, who was it that turned up to the class, and how did it go teaching it?
It was just people who were customers of that store already. Like, because it's an hour and a half away from me, so no one in my immediate area showed up. So none of my local contacts. But it was rather the word got out through the store itself. So they put it up on their website, they put it up on their social media, and then it was their customers that was like, oh, that sounds cool, and I'll sign up for that. Yeah, and yeah, it was cool. I did just kind of like an introduction, and talked about what CBD is, what it's used for. In these instances, I can actually say really what it's used for without fear of getting in trouble, because it's in person. And then like how to find a good CBD product, best practices for taking CBD, some precautions about drug interactions, that kind of thing. And then I did a little demo. We made a custom CBD rub in-house, and then I drew someone's name out of the hat. They got to take it home.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Yeah, that would have been wonderful for them to see that process of you putting it together, and just like, really bring it back to the grassroots, in that like, this is how I make the product, and like they can see it in their eyes, and it just it takes away that barrier. It's no longer that big business, but it's you making the products that they can see in the store, which is exactly the message that you want to get out. Just from your experience in being in business to this point, if you have like a couple of pieces of advice that are most important for other herbalists who are in the process of growing their business, what would be your most important pieces of advice?
You need to be aware of what the regulations are around selling herbal products. There are a lot of regulations, from the FDA to the good manufacturing practices, your local licensing. There's lots of it can be confusing to figure out exactly what you need to do, but it's important, because if you don't have all your ducks in a row there, then you can get yourself in some serious trouble. I recently was a vendor at we had a new kind of holistic yoga center kind of place just opened up, and I tabled there for their grand opening, and there was another person there selling kind of mostly herbal type body care products, and she had one kind of topical, a cream or a salve or something that had CBD in it, and I was like, oh wow, and I was checking it out and talking to her about it, and it turned out she wasn't licensed. You have to, in Vermont, and as in most states, you have to be licensed to make any CBD products that you get a license from the state. And she had no license, and she was like, oh, I don't need a license because I don't make the oil. I buy the oil and just put it in my product. And I'm like, no, you're making a CBD product that you're selling, so you have to have a license. And she didn't believe me, so I looked up the regulations and showed it to her. She was like, oh no. And her products weren't tested. They weren't labeled according to the Vermont law. And so her chances of being busted and getting in trouble are pretty low, because she was a very, very small, her operation was really small, but still, you really should go by, you shouldn't be breaking regulations and producing products that you're not allowed to legally sell.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's actually our own responsibility as a business owner. Like, it's our responsibility to do the research and make sure that we know that we're doing the right thing, rather than just waiting for someone to tell us, no, you're doing the wrong thing, go and do this. Like, if you're starting the business, you're taking the initiative, we need to be taking control. That's what it is as a business owner. Like, you get to control things, but it also comes with a certain level of responsibility. And that responsibility is not like sometimes it feels like just red tape, but it's actually a responsibility for the care of the customers and like their safety, and making sure that you do know how those products are being made, that they're made in the like you know, following the right procedures, that they're always the same. They're not like variously different concentrations depending on the batch and things like that. Like there needs to be some regularity so that the customers can know what to expect from your products as well. So it's like that duty of care. And like when you look at it from that way, you start to realize the importance of the regulations rather than just feeling like it's annoying because like it can feel annoying, but they're there for a reason. When you start to see it that way, it becomes a little bit easier to deal with the red tape, I think. But yeah, I definitely agree with you that that's an important thing to like, it's the first thing really that we should at least consider before the rest of the vision of the business, because if you're not willing to step up to the plate and really meet those regulations, then it's probably not the right pathway for you to follow as a like a herbal product maker in particular. Because I would say, yeah, for the herbal product makers, it's like definitely the highest hoops to jump through as far as the regulations go, and it's not necessarily the pathway you have to follow, but it's can also be a very fulfilling pathway to follow if you can do it in the right way, I think.
Yeah, and with hemp products there's a whole separate set of rules you have to follow, which are very, very specific. Plus my products are organic certified, so that's another set of rules and another big chunk of paperwork to keep up with. So it's a lot. Yeah. If I had known how much time it would take to keep up with the organic certification and get all that paperwork in place, I probably wouldn't have done it. I mean, I'm glad I have it now, and I'm glad I think it was the right decision. It certainly adds some credibility to a product, and especially with hemp products, at least being produced in using organic methods is very, very important, much more so than with other plants. So I'm glad I made the effort and did it. But it's a big expense and a huge chunk of time.
Yeah. I remember looking back I think it's a while ago now, but you've also done some pretty cool Instagram reels to do with your messaging about like the different hats that you wear. I specifically remember one still now, which is a good sign, because it means that it's about like, yeah, the different hats that you wear, and bringing it back that all of the different things that you do in your brand are kind of all you. Can you tell me about that, or how you got the idea?
I stole that idea from somebody else's reel about just wearing all the different hats. So yeah, I had a picture of me looking like businessy, and that I'm the CEO, and then I was like the registered nurse consultant and the chief herbalist and the marketing manager, and yeah, I just had a little teeny clip of me with it wearing a different outfit in each one, and my husband was in there because he's my shipping manager. That's one hat that I don't wear. And I had my cat in there at the end, the human resources support manager or something was my cat. So it's just fun and silly. Reels, yeah, sometimes reels are really like informative, but mine have just been kind of mostly fun and silly. And yeah.
Well, I think that human aspect is important, especially, like putting the cat in there and things like that, or like the people appreciate that, and just like putting your face on the brand as well, I think is just very admirable for a small brand, because it has such a big impact and people connect more with you as a person. And a lot of small businesses are afraid to do that, but to really put your face on the brand is so important.
Yeah. Having that trust factor is having your face out there so that people can really see that there's a real human behind the brand. It's not just like some faceless corporation out there. It really goes a long way with people. The more people can know you, the more they'll trust you, and the more they'll be likely to buy from you.
Yeah. Were you initially hesitant to put your face on camera, or were you always okay about that from the beginning?
With photos, I was fine with it, but like getting in front of my phone and making a video, that was pretty terrifying. Yeah. So the first few videos, I mean, I would like make 20 takes and finally come up with one I could feel okay about posting. And yeah, it was pretty I felt very, very awkward in front of the camera, but now
I think that's pretty common.
I'm more used to it now.
And so you just got used to it? Like you just worked through the fear, or is it like, is that what you did?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think not having it have to be live is certainly helps, because I still do a lot of takes, because, you know, like my hair will look bad in one, or, you know, I'll stumble over my words in one. So knowing that it's not live and I could just like move forward and do a new take is easier. And then, you know, sometimes it just like doesn't work out and I won't post it. That's hardly ever happened. But and then I think people are actually fairly forgiving. So if you post a video and you're stumbling over your words, they're not going to care that much. You know, that also just shows you're human. It doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah, like don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. It's better just like get something out there, even if it's not super polished. It's still better than not having it out there at all. So yeah, don't be too scared. Just like jump in and do it.
Yeah, I love that advice, like especially coming from someone who makes a lot of mistakes, putting stuff out there all the time. I often get like replies from emails that I've sent out to thousands of people because if I have typos in them or something like that, because I accidentally, but it is so important just to get it out there. I remember as well one time doing a Facebook Live and I couldn't figure out how to like turn it off at the end. And I was like, where's the end button? And then it's just got me like the last 3 seconds of the video is me like blank face looking at the screen trying to like find the button to turn it off. But after it I was like, should I delete that? And I was like, I'll just leave it. Like people like it was better to have the live up there, even with the embarrassing part at the end. And like you say, people know you're human, and like it in the end adds to the brand as well. It's not necessarily a bad thing, even if it's a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
No. So if people want to know more about Primal Botanical and what you do with your CBD products, where is the best place for them to reach out and find out more?
Well, I'm at Primal Botanical on all the social media stuff. I try to be active on Instagram and Facebook. I do have a Pinterest page. I don't have a lot of pins up, again, time. My website is primalbotanical.com. I have a Twitter, which I don't really use very much. So yeah, Instagram and Facebook and my website are the main ways to get a hold of me. And I'm at Primal Botanical on Instagram and Facebook.
Great. Sounds like you've reserved all the handles, but are like putting your priorities into the right places. So it's like Facebook, Instagram, and your website are the main places to actually get in contact with you. Great. Yeah. And Primal Botanical. Well, yeah, thank you so much for your time today. I've enjoyed chatting with you and just learning more about what you're doing. Especially I think what you do really well is just like try and put things out there. So whether that be the partnership with the bike shop or that teaching that CBD class or getting on Instagram Reels, there's like so many different examples in different realms of just putting yourself out there and seeing what works and like not letting fear get in the way, which is so admirable. And I'm really glad to see that you're doing that in the way that you're running Primal Botanical.